At the end of the First World War, a man with no home, no profession, and no future wandered the streets of Munich. He slept in overcrowded hostels, sold crude paintings to survive, and listened, obsessively, to the angry conversations filling beer halls and street corners. No one noticed him. No one feared him. And yet, within 15 years, this same man would command the loyalty of millions, bend a modern nation to his will, and drag the world into catastrophe. History is more than dates and names. It is the story of power, ambition, triumph, and downfall. Welcome to Historical Figures, where we uncover the lives of the men and women who shaped the world and altered the course of time. If you're drawn to epic stories, untold truths, and the moments that forged history, subscribe to the channel and stand with us as we journey into the past. Now, let history speak. The unsettling question is not simply who Adolf Hitler was, but how he convinced an entire society to follow him. Germany in 1919 was a wounded country. Defeat had shattered its pride. The Kaiser was gone. The economy was collapsing. Veterans returned home to unemployment and humiliation. The Treaty of Versailles hung over the nation like a public shaming, demanding reparations that crushed any hope of recovery. Democracy arrived not as a triumph, but as a reminder of loss. Many Germans did not feel liberated. They felt betrayed. Hitler absorbed this atmosphere like oxygen. He did not create Germany's anger. He studied it, refined it, and learned how to speak it back with terrifying precision. He discovered early that facts mattered less than feelings. When Hitler spoke, he didn't argue policy. He told stories of stolen glory and poisoned futures. He spoke of a Germany that had been stabbed in the back, of enemies within and without who had robbed the nation of its destiny. These claims were false, but they were emotionally irresistible to people searching for meaning in chaos. What made Hitler dangerous was not intelligence in the traditional sense, but instinct. He understood crowds. He watched faces. He noticed when a phrase stirred something primal. He learned when to pause, when to shout, when to whisper. His speeches were not lectures. They were performances designed to bypass reason and go straight for identity. Early audiences laughed at him, then they leaned forward, then they applauded. The Nazi Party was insignificant at first, a fringe group fueled by resentment and fantasy. Hitler's failed coup in 1923 should have ended his career. Instead, it became his education. In prison, he learned a critical lesson. Power in modern Germany would not be seized by force, but by manipulation of the system itself. When he emerged, he was more disciplined, more strategic, and more patient. He transformed the Nazis into a movement that felt less like a party and more like a belief system. Membership wasn't about voting. It was about belonging. Uniforms, symbols, chants, and rituals created a sense of unity that many Germans had not felt since before the war. In a fractured society, Hitler offered certainty. In a fearful nation, he offered enemies to blame. And blame was essential. Jews, communists, intellectuals, journalists, any group that could be portrayed as other became a target. The brilliance of the lie was its simplicity. Complex problems were reduced to human villains. Inflation wasn't a failure of policy, it was sabotage. Unemployment wasn't structural, it was theft. Once people accepted the idea that their suffering was caused by specific enemies, cruelty began to feel like justice. Hitler rarely spoke about violence directly. Instead, he spoke about purity, renewal, and destiny. He framed exclusion as protection and repression as necessity. By the time violence became explicit, many Germans had already accepted the logic behind it. The Great Depression gave Hitler his opening. As banks collapsed and families starved, the Weimar government appeared helpless. Hitler did not promise detailed solutions. He promised strength. He promised action. He promised that Germany would rise again and that those responsible for its fall would be removed. Fear is a powerful motivator. Hope combined with fear is unstoppable. Once appointed chancellor in 1933, Hitler moved quickly, but not obviously. He used legal mechanisms to dismantle democracy piece by piece. The Reichstag fire, likely exploited if not orchestrated, became the excuse to suspend civil liberties. Emergency decrees replaced debate. Opposition parties were outlawed. Critics were labeled traitors. Each step was framed as temporary, necessary, protective. Most Germans did not wake up one morning in a dictatorship. They walked into it gradually, reassured at every turn that order was being restored. Propaganda did the rest. Joseph Goebbels understood that repetition creates reality. Radios flooded homes with Hitler's voice. Posters filled streets with heroic imagery. Films portrayed him as tireless, selfless, almost mythical. Children were taught songs. Adults were taught silence. The message was constant. Hitler is Germany. To oppose him is to oppose the nation itself. And many wanted to believe it. Unemployment fell, partially due to rearmament and public works. Roads were built, parades were held. For those not yet targeted, life seemed to improve. Complicity often grows not from hatred but from comfort. But manipulation thrives on escalation. Once Hitler consolidated power, moderation became betrayal. Loyalty was no longer enough. Enthusiasm was required. Those who remained silent became suspicious. Those who questioned became dangerous. The state turned neighbor against neighbor, turning fear into a social glue. The most chilling aspect of Hitler's rise is how ordinary it often looked. There was no single moment when Germany collectively chose evil. There were thousands of smaller choices, rationalizations, compromises, silences that added up to catastrophe. By the time the truth became undeniable, dissent was deadly. Hitler's manipulation was not magic. It relied on recognizable tools, exploiting economic anxiety, weaponizing identity, attacking truth, and presenting authoritarianism as salvation. These tools work not because people are ignorant, but because they are human. He offered belonging to the lonely, purpose to the lost, and certainty to the afraid. In return, he demanded obedience, and the cost was measured in lives. Understanding how Adolf Hitler manipulated a nation is not about reliving the past. It is about recognizing patterns. History does not repeat itself exactly, but it rhymes with uncomfortable clarity. When fear is encouraged, when lies are normalized, and when power is concentrated in the name of national renewal, the warning signs are already there. The most unsettling truth is this: Hitler did not seize control of Germany alone. He was lifted by millions who believed, tolerated, or looked away. And that is why his story still matters.